Today on No to Normal, Australia's been at the forefront of many advances in technology. Today, we look to the past and the future to see what Australians have done.
Welcome to Nerd and Normal with Matthew and Gareth, opening your mind to the world of technology. So let's get started.
My dear friend, Happy New Year. Welcome to January 2026 with all those innovations that you alluded to discuss.
Yes, and same to you, Gareth. Happy New Year and Happy New Face for me for the time being too.
Yeah, well, we won't comment on that. You should black out your screen side and just hear the audio. But and look, it looks great. Really, it's a tribute to razors. Mate, the thing I think we should start with, rather than innovations that we've made with Australia Day this weekend, and that is the social media ban with children between up to the age of 16. Have you got any feedback on how it's progressing?
So it is an innovation of Australia to actually do this social media ban to the point where the UK, Malaysia and New Zealand are all actually taking inspiration from us, and they're going to try and look into bringing their own things in. The government last week, actually announced that 4.7 million accounts were deleted by those social media platforms, the 10 platforms involved with this. Of that, Meta, the owners of Facebook and Threads and Instagram, said they deleted just over 500,000 accounts. So I don't know where the other 4 million or plus accounts have come from. It's not from Facebook and Instagram and Threads. But I decided this last week just to test to see, can I create a brand new account on my computer from nothing? And I did. No problem at all. I had to put in my age being a certain year of date. But at the end of the day, I can easily create on my computer an account and there's no verification other than putting in a date of birth. That tells me that ban has worked on people who are honest, saying they were born a certain time. But I also see flaws in it still. And the fact that only the people that are saying anything are the government, who are the ones that instigated the actual ban, and the few social media platforms saying, yeah, we're following through, it's doing all the things correctly, and none of them actually getting there admitting, hey, is it working properly, yes or no? No one's saying truthfully what's going on, and there's no one also questioning it either, because there's no easy way to question it. But it does lead me to the next point, where the government's actually being sued still by Elon Musk, and now also by Reddit, one of the companies that was involved with the ban as well. So we have multiple lawsuits now taking place trying to get rid of this, while 3 other countries are looking at actually taking what we've done and running with it themselves. Is it successful? Sort of. Will it be successful into the future? Probably not, as people are moving to these other platforms that aren't in the list and continuing their social media things. I also quickly raise, there's been some child psychologists that have said that doing this has actually also caused some grief for some children, because their main way of communicating with their friends isn't usually in the school playground, because they've changed schools. It's not over the phone with a phone call, it's through social media. So they can't communicate with those friends either, making them harder to sort of keep their social cohesion going.
In the area in which you live, there is one of Australia's leading child clinical psychologists. His name is Dr. John Irvine. You should actually put that proposition to him and get his feedback, because in terms of children, nobody knows more than him.
I think we might get a hold of Dr. John at some stage and see what he has to say about the whole child situation when it comes to how their mental state will change by doing that. We might get a hold of John soon.
Yeah, we'll do it on this site.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Look, Australia really, and with Australia Day in mind, I mention this meaningfully and from the heart, we have a very rich history of innovation that's contributed significant advancements to global medicine and technology, daily life, sport, you name it. And Australia has been there. Now, look, I just from memory know that things like the electronic pacemaker was invented by an Australian. The medical application of penicillin was developed by an Australian. The bionic ear, or the cochlear implant, was developed by an Australian. Race cam. Wouldn't be able to watch Bathurst 1000 race every October without being actually in the car with the driver, all through race cam. Now, there are a number of problems with it as well in sport, which we'll come to. But what is it about Australia, you think, that has led the world? I mean, Google Maps is ours, not Google. We developed it, Australia developed it, and they bought it. What are we doing here?
I think it's the benefit of the sort of short history we've had here in Australia, because we are just over 200 years old in Australia, but we came into being with already quite a fair few advancements, and it's the tyranny of distance. Things like the refrigeration system that had to be used to ship Australian produce back to the UK. The actual creation of a valid and usable refrigeration system was also an Australian invention, because the people want to try and find some way to ship their stuff back over to the UK, so to invent a way that actually worked well for that. Things like the notepad. The notepad is a Tasmanian invention. The paper glued together with cardboard in the back is actually an Australian invention as well. Because we started off with this whole range of resources that we couldn't use ourselves, we had to work out a way to actually use those resources, and we made amazing ways of doing it. You think back to the age of the country, 240 years old, thereabouts.
Well,
you compare
let me just correct that slightly, because I want to include the boomerang and also the didgeridoo. The country is more than 40,000 years old. It's just that people arrived in the country from different parts of the world at different times across that 40 plus thousand years. I'm sorry to draw that in, but it's a very important point, I think, to make on Australia Day.
And we'll look into the Aboriginal side of things shortly. But you think about the European settlement. When they came here, they brought their technologies that had spent thousands of years being progressively done through the industrial era, and it was all brought here and just dumped here. We had the natural resources to do things with, but we couldn't ship it back to them, and we couldn't sell it to anybody else. And so it was that starting off at that age, pretty much walking children able to process information they shouldn't be able to process is how the country was looked at as a whole at that point in the situation, versus countries like the UK that had been around for centuries as a whole. And the evolution of Australia has kept up with the rest of the world. When it comes to the Aboriginal side of things, the stuff that they've done when it comes to clearing out the land for backburning to make sure they're not going to all get burnt by fire. The fact they've used wood to do a whole range of tools with, those innovations have been brought into everyday life these days as well. You can't exclude what they've done. But again, the biggest issue comes down to their understanding of the world of Australia, the nature of Australia, makes Australia as a country work well, but doesn't also blend well to the rest of the world either. Their focus is very much on Australia, where the Europeans came here with their focus being worldwide.
Yeah, and the point, mother and necessity and invention seem all three to go hand in hand. We need to get our coal, our gold, our food to other parts of the world. So that need has created the spark of invention. So we've come up with those like refrigeration. Even in war, I'm not too sure if you're aware of it, but the torpedo and the tank, not British, but both of them were Australian inventions. So we've engaged, as you've just said, we've engaged with the rest of the world in the defence of democracies. And as a result, Australians have come up with amazing inventions. Radar, the smart modem. It's not a United States invention. It's an Australian invention.
The problem we've got, though, is while the brains are all here, the money's not. And so all these inventions, they get thought of here, they get created here, then they get shipped overseas, and then the manufacturers go overseas. The best example has to be the power board. The power strip we all use for plugging multiple devices into one power point, that's an Australian invention. In 1972, Canbrook actually in Australia created it, but didn't patent it. So they end up just selling it, and then all their competitors did the same thing. And it's all around the world, and Canbrook have absolutely no value in it these days at all. It's the brains are here, but the money's always elsewhere.
Yeah, and some large company like Google or Microsoft buy our inventions. We would not have this conversation and involve the person and joining us right now unless we had Wi-Fi. Well, goodness gracious me, Wi-Fi also invented here in Australia.
Yep, And the problem you have there again, the brains are here, but the money for that, Wi-Fi and the standard, all that is now owned by an American company. It was actually created by the Australian government. CSIRO created it and worked on it.
That's
but
right.
they didn't patent it. They ended up dealing with it all, put all the details all over the world, and then in the late 1990s, they thought, hang on, we created this. We're not getting any money out of it. We'll try and patent it. But by that stage, it was already too late.
Too late. Have you travelled overseas?
No, I've never left the country.
Do you have a passport?
No, I don't.
Well, you don't then are not able to take advantage of another Australian invention. The passport security laminate was developed by an Australian.
That sounds very much like the polymer note, which is also created here in Australia too.
Australian, yes.
Which is now also being used all over the world.
As are passports and the laminate that accompanies all those passports across the world. However, it is Australia Day. If you had to pick two inventions from Australia that have made a significant international impact, what two would come to mind for you?
You might be thinking I'm thinking Google Maps or Wi-Fi. I'm not. The reason why I dwelled on the notepad, because that has to be one of them. The notepad, which was from Tasmania, has to be the most important piece of thing you ever deal with, because how many times you had paper all over the desk, but you had the notepads there ready to pick up and start using it. The other one for me would have to be, I'm tossing up here, either between the fridge or prepaid postage. Postage stamps are also Australian. Those two also are highly important. No technology in this at all for me. I think technology, we did have a big input to all of it, but at the end of the day, it's the simple things. The black box flight recorder, that was created by us. But for me, not all that important because others were doing it as well. But refrigeration that can be used commercially and also residential purposes. The idea of prepaid postage stamps, which is an Australian invention. Without that, where would we be today? They wouldn't have had the mail the way it works. But
we can't afford postage stamps these days.
nor get a postman to deliver them either, by the looks of it. But a notepad, definitely.
I would find it difficult to zero on just two, but for me, the inventions or the advancements we've made in medicine stand out as the most important for me, given the impact it has on the health and well-being of so many. The application, as I said, of penicillin. Where would we be with fighting antibiotics without penicillin? The notion of the bionic ear, the cochlear implant, the spray-on skin, the ultrasound recorder. These events impact every single Australian in some way, shape or form every day of the year for the rest of eternity. So for me, not necessarily picking just two, it would be the importance that its application has found in medicine.
Again, the doctors in this country are pretty good, and the fact that it's not just always one thing you can pin down, because there are so many that have changed the world, and all from this little country.
And don't forget, from another country, but an Australian, Dr. Victor Chang and the heart transplant. His perfection with the longer-serving Fiona Coote, who was one of his very early patients and whose life was saved. So, medicine for me and the notepad for you. You can make all the notes in your notepad and I'll make sure I go to the doctor to stay healthy.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Mate, how would this sound to you in terms of you're not Australian unless you've done some of the following? You've tried to catch a blowfly buzzing around your head with both hands. Try it sometime in the middle of summer.
The problem is you squash it, the maggots go everywhere. Not for me.
Yeah. You've had an argument with a mate over whether, in the old days, whether Ford or Holden was the best make of car. Or have you ever done the hot sand dance? Now, you live near the water. Have you, on the hot sand, have you done the dance across the sand with no shoes on?
Used to when I was younger. These days, my feet are a little bit harder, so I can handle it these days. But not just the hot sand, but the whole concrete. Get an egg out, try and fry it. Definitely an Australian thing to try and do that.
Yeah, or you call soccer, not football. Or you've squeezed Vegemite between some Vita-Wheat bickies and you've watched the worms come out of the Vita-Bits. Or you've sucked your coffee through a Tim Tam. You're not Australian until you've done any of these. Or you don't care what's in a meat pie. You just love the meat pie. Anyway, you're not Australian until you've done some of those things in this great, wonderful land of ours.
I've got to say, when it comes to the meat pie, I don't know whether you've seen recently on ABC, Dr. Carl has a new show on where it actually is showing you how they actually make the meat pie, and it doesn't answer any questions. They just put mince in there.
Yeah. Well, actually, with Dr. Carl in mind, an amazing man, on a radio station in Sydney and in Melbourne, Triple J. He has a program every Thursday morning, and people can ring in and pose questions to him. And he's amazing how he's just, off the top of his head, is able to answer them. And he admits when, no, I can't really answer that question. But anyway, moving right along.
Another Australian trait, get there and admit when you're wrong, doesn't hurt to do that. And also not knowing everything isn't a crime.
No. The problem, though, is we have a tall poppy syndrome here. All right, sport. We've just gone through the cricket and the incredible problems that they've found with DRS. How effective is it? How is it used? And why is it used when you have an umpire? Now, he or she may make a mistake, but you have an umpire. It's not cricket to use technology, surely.
Well, the idea of it comes down to making the decisions final and also to answer the questions of, are we just human, and should people actually be scoring points they normally would not score? Unfortunately, they rely on it too much these days for everything, not just for the broadcast, but also what gives the right of a sports person to question the umpire like they always seem to want to do on all sports these days. They should be actually following what the umpire, the referee says, because at the end of the day, they should know all the rules in the game, and they should be the final ultimatum for if something's right or wrong. Unfortunately, though, it's down to the broadcasting that requires all the technology being used now to make sure that things are working properly.
I'll stick with the umpire, but we do have the technology. What about in tennis? Is the ball in or out? And they go to a camera. Firstly, whether it's right or wrong, let's forget that. How does it work?
So it works by actually watching where the ball goes very closely, and it then compares that to where the line is. So the computer and the AI is always watching things, and it can actually see through the lens how close actually is to the edge of the line or actually on the line itself. It does that through a range of different technologies using multiple different cameras. It's not just one camera, because you have to have from different angles. So there's a whole lot of different cameras all looking at the same bit, but it also uses the brightness. So it's multiple cameras, the brightness of different things, and then a whole lot of programs all crunching out the numbers. It's got faster now. I remember when they first brought it in, it'll take them about 30 seconds to 3 minutes to find out whether it was actually in or out. The computer's now so fast, they actually answer those questions now straight away, pretty much.
Good idea, bad idea, or again, should we just stick with the umpire?
It changes the way a sport is for everything, because now any sports person can say, oh yeah, I'm the greatest there's ever been because I scored all these points. But yet you look back to when things were different and the umpires actually made decisions, they might not have got all the points they have now. So for me, I think you can't compare years ago with sport to now, but you also then can't compare sport now to the future, because you're going to have different technologies doing different things for sports people with their training abilities, with how the umpires work. So it comes down to, unfortunately, as more and more things happen with technology advancing sports people and sports umpiring, it's going to change sports as a whole. Are the sports going to be the same in the future? Probably not. I look at NRL right now saying they're going to change the kickoff rule after scoring a point. You can't go around just changing sports and then compare what was there before to what it is now.
Vive la France, even though it's not Bastille Day until the 14th of July this coming year. But in France, at the French Open, they don't use that technology. They have been using line umpires, line referees. So they're still relying on the human, which makes the French Open pretty challenging.
Again, I'd rather trust a human than a technology thing any day of the week. As somebody who does technology for their living, I don't trust it as far as I can throw it. For me, it's got to be technology on the second situation, always though the human being the first option.
Well, you prove that by the fact that your camera stopped in the middle of what you were saying. So your technology was failing you. Sorry.
The new camera, it's like the face thing. It doesn't work this either. Keep things old.
Oh, whatever is old again is new again. Could I, almost as a way of saying Happy Australia Day for you on the 26th, but the things, and I'd like to ask you the same question, some of the things that I celebrate about being an Australian. I celebrate the progress of our free public libraries. I celebrate Carolyn Chisholm's determination to populate the outback with women. I celebrate the introduction of the secret ballot. I celebrate the extension of the vote to women. I celebrate the courage of our service, our defence personnel in all wars and in peacekeeping. I celebrate the generosity of organisations like the Smith family and the Red Cross and Community Aid Abroad. I celebrate the heart of our sports people. I celebrate the generosity of our volunteers, the lack of mass starvation, and the fact that we are a democracy and we have in this country, hopefully everywhere, religious tolerance. And I celebrate the fact that we have no civil war. And I finally celebrate the fact that when I wake up in the morning, I can say, I am going to be, and I have the option to be. What do you celebrate?
I celebrate all that, and the fact that the freedoms are always there for all of us. The freedom of thought, the freedom of religion, the freedom of doing whatever you want to damn well do. It's that freedom that you don't get everywhere else. Even you compare right now Australia to America. The freedoms that they don't have there, they think they have, but they actually don't have. Here we don't have that issue. It's amazing how much freedom we get, and it's all thanks to those who came before us, and it's the freedom that will be given to those who come after us.
And I celebrate the fact that we're not trying to take over Greenland. Mate, Happy Australia Day. We'll talk again soon.
See you then, Gareth. You have a good Australia Day too. There you go. You're safe now.
What? Why is it bald in the middle?
It's not.
Yes, it is. Doesn't look. It looks bald.
You're bald.
Oh, no, that's something I never ever will be.
It's all going to change, and hang on, I gotta.
Yeah, movie recording has been stopped.
Hang on. There we are.
Pick it up and edit it. Jeez.
The joys of the new camera.
This is a Google comedy moment with the nerd and normal, but the comedy part coming from.
At least I can see it on the screen.